calling, good evening. We're calling to order the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to hear the report from the Beecher Road School Building Committee about the project they've been working on for some time now. And I think this is a presentation that many people have been looking forward to hear about what the project looks like and all the progress that's been made over these months and I guess perhaps years. So I think we can just get started. Ready to go? Mm-hmm. All right. We will start with an introduction to the project by Dr. Stella and Jeff Kaufman, Chair of the Building Committee.
So I just want to note for the record that Jeff Goody will be the chairs this time.
Special chairs for the joint meeting.
Well, thank you for inviting us back for a second time. We were here last week. We appreciate the fact that you're good listeners. You care so much about our town, about our school. And as I mentioned last week, there's an urgent need. But let me set the stage in a sense here. I came to Beecher Road School about 8 years ago, and I'm so happy that I was selected and I did come here. It's been a wonderful 8 years. And with my trained educator's eyes, when I first came to Beecher Road School, I saw what a jewel of a school. But not isolated, what a jewel of a community. And there were so many things to be happy about and proud about. The academic programs, the involvement of parents, community, the way town and school district work together, and so on. But my trained eyes also told me that the building was a unique facility with interconnecting structures, was in need of repair in various areas. And I was so happy to hear that there was an upgrade on the horizon. Now that was 8 years ago, and during that time, again, there's been a lot of good process and discussion and so on about how to approach an upgrade. I think we've reached the point where I talk with so many parents, so many staff members, community members. There's so much support for an upgrade. Why? Because it's an economical way of doing what has to be done at the school. There are some urgent problems that are affecting the educational quality at the school. I gave a CMT presentation to the Board of Education last night. It's on TV. If you have any coaching tips for me in presentation style, feel free to share that with me, but the data speaks for itself. This is the last year of the CMT. It's the best CMT that I could see in the history of Beecher Road School. Our sixth graders that we handed over to the middle school, they were off the charts. Mathematics 100% in proficiency, 95% at goal and advanced level, probably twice as many children on advanced and on goal. Science #1 in a very high performing DERG, and #5 out of 168, 69 districts in the entire state. So the school is doing well academically. There's a constant crisis of repairing the building, and I'll use examples. Our boilers again, 8 years ago, we said, wow, okay, let's make them last. And we have tried to make them last. In 2008, for example, I don't know the technicality, but the back of the boilers melted and they had to be replaced. And again, the thought was, well, maybe we could get 2 more years out of them. So that brings us to 2010. We live and worry with the boilers. This past year, one of the boilers during the annual cleanup project, which is again an expensive affair, there was some structural damage within. Greg Kula, our facilities director, is very, very much has high knowledge of them too. We have a consulting company we work with. Andy Esposito has been over taking a look. A number of people have. I think there's a unanimous feeling that we don't know how to repair these here. The parts, from what I understand, don't exist. Maybe they could be made again, maybe they can't, but it's like throwing bad money after something. I worry as an educator because we take our responsibility for our children very, very seriously. Our population is going up. We're up to about 775 as of today, and we have 150 adults there or more each day too. I worry if there's a cold day in the winter, can we get by on one boiler? That's a gamble. We possibly could, but it's a gamble. But I think there's agreement that the boilers are on their last legs. So there's an urgent need for that. And again, my job is to work with the Board of Ed and to bring our needs to the town here, and in your wisdom, decide, what the best way is to approach it, but it's my responsibility to do that. There are so many things that happen at the school. It's a good time for an upgrade. It's a necessary time. We've had so many citizens from Woodbridge giving so generously of their time and their talents and their efforts over the past few years, trying to get collective wisdom as far as what's the best way to approach it. And everyone went around the circle 360 degrees. Some people said a new school, some people said this and that, consultants were brought in. But by and large, there was a process, a democratic process and sharing of a lot of expertise. And then the thought was, how do we do it in a way that meets the needs of our children? But also, Beecher Road School is a community school. It's used by recreation, it's used by a lot of community residents. And how can we do it in a way that's not a burden on our taxpayers, because these are tough financial times? So again, the thought was to come up with an upgrade that doesn't give anything fancy. It gives the essentials of what's needed to keep the building operating. Our best resources are our teaching staff and our human resources. We'll do the job. We'll continue to do a good job. We have to make sure, though, there's heat, that the air quality is good, and that we watch out for all of our children and anyone who uses the building. We have children who are medically fragile. We have to constantly be on alert too if a heating system goes down in a particular part of the building. We have children who by law, and it's the right thing to do, require a higher quality of air control. And so we've had to put unit air conditioners in an increasing number of classrooms. That's an inefficient way of doing it, and it's a costly way of doing it. So again, I'd make the appeal. The town has always been supportive. I've always said this here, of education and of the citizens at the same time. So I make this urgent appeal for the upgrade. And again, from my point of view, talking with a variety of people, there are a number of people who are supportive of this, who understand it. And I think it's important to let all of our citizens in town know of the importance of this too. So that's my introduction.
He's a way better speaker than I am. He's done this before. I'm Jeff Kaufman. I'm chair of the building committee. After several years of a lot of hard work, the previous building committee recommended a project that was just under $20 million. As a response to that, the town, knowing that there were needs to the school, but $20 million would be difficult to get approved, set up another building committee to look at the recommendations to determine if it could be pared down and possibly built in phases over 2 to 3 year time period. I'm not going to read the whole charge, but three of the important things. The first charge was given on November 9th, 2011. The pool and the lockers were added December 14th, 2011. And then recently in January 2013, they added the security improvements. But the base charge was to review and evaluate the previous building committee's recommendations and determine if the project can be completed in phases with approvals either through a referendum or annual capital budget process. Update information as necessary, if needed, working with the firms previously retained by the Board of Selectmen for this project. B, continue to apply the best practices for sustainable design, including the use of sustainable and energy efficient products and materials. LEED certification, if applicable, and the possible use of green energy and other techniques, and seek grant opportunities to fund or offset the additional potential cost of these initiatives. And the third one was review and recommend security improvements to the facility. That was the one that was added on in January. The new building committee set the envelope as a top priority for the school building by creating a tight, energy-efficient envelope to work as a base for if there were going to be additional phases. Becoming a more efficient facility would, at the same time, replace the old systems, which haven't been updated in decades. As the analysis continued and the actual cost numbers were determined through a process, it was decided that possibly the project could be done in a one-shot deal and not phased at all. We engaged the services of John Rice, who you'll meet tonight from AKF, to evaluate the mechanicals, the envelope, and with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. And with his guidance, we went out to 4 different firms to evaluate our project and submit proposals. The 2 top choices were Honeywell and ESG. Eventually, the committee went with ESG. Very early on, well, I already talked about the building charge. We did get the security charge, although, and I will just quickly on the security, although we've started to discuss it, we're not near ready to actually suggest what should actually be done. It's going to be a fairly long process, so although we have an approximate budget number for those things, we don't actually have any specifics on that thing. The project projections are, the breakdown of the project is, the total project is about 13.5. The project projections are coming in at approximately $10.5 million for the school. The pool work is approximately $2 million, and the security could be in the range of $600,000 to $900,000. Early on in the process, as the other building committee, we also looked into building a new school, and it was estimated that the cost of a new building would be in the range of $60 million. Up until July 2013, we have kept everyone up to date with our monthly reports at the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance meetings. We have had the input of Dr. Stella, Al Pulo, and Margaret Hamilton, Chair of the Board of Ed, attending our meetings, along with Sheila, Andy Esposito, and Jason Feinbecker. The committee has met diligently almost weekly and did a job that would not have been possible without the cooperation of everyone. At the presentation of the Board of Ed in December of 2012, the Board of Ed voted in approval of the project that is being proposed by the Building Committee with a 8-1 in favor. And here we are. Actually, one more thing. We are requesting tonight, although it's on the agenda, that the Building Committee is looking for direction from a vote from the Board of Selectmen to authorize the Building Committee to start going out and setting up public meetings to start educating the public on the project.
Jeff, you've referred a few times to the envelope, starting with the envelope, which I take as a term of art. Could you explain a little bit more about what the envelope is?
The roof, which are leaking problems. The walls. That's the main envelope. So we want to make everything tight, because right now you'll see. I'm sure there'll be some pictures tonight of where we did studies on the building, and the building like lights up where the heat's escaping from the building. So the idea was to make everything tight and then start working from the inside out. Boilers being the first element.
Are there questions for Jeff or Dr. Stella? Thank you.
As I mentioned last time, academically we probably rank in the top 5-10% of the country. And heat loss, I think we rank in the bottom 20%, and
maybe 15.
And that's the thing with 15. And also, just want to emphasize the fact that our Board of Education supports this. Margaret Hamilton is our chair. She's with us tonight. If you want to ask her any questions too, but there's a lot of support for this on the school side.
Thank you, and I would like to thank you, Dr. Stella, for your leadership on this, and Jeff, for your leadership on the committee. I know how many hours this committee has worked and to put together the presentation and get us to the point where we are, so thank you very much.
Can I just ask one quick question? I mean, because people have asked me the difference between a new school and doing this project. I'm assuming $60 million for a new school is a lot of money, obviously, but how long?
It's a lot more than 13.
I got that part. But a new school, 20 years, 30 years out will last? How long will these, do you have any projections in terms of how this will last?
The usual rule of thumb is that the game plan is you do a project and it goes for 20 years.
Very good.
So you have a good at least 20 years
That's
out of the project.
Thank you.
But I would definitely put those guys on the hot spot, because they're the ones that have to guarantee it.
Just because people have asked me,
Yeah.
why do we want to do this person? That's good, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, the presentation, the heart of the matter, it's John Rice of AKF and Doug Tischbein from ESG. Do you want to make some comments?
For the presentation, should we sit? Is it comfortable if we stand?
I think whatever is comfortable for you.
Okay.
Are we going to be in your way here? Do you want us on this side to move? We can see, Susan.
We can see. Yeah, I think we're fine. And if I could just stand, and speak, it'll be fine.
John, perhaps you could introduce everyone so people.
Okay, my name is John Rice. I'm a partner in the consulting engineering firm of AKF Engineers. We're going to introduce AKF in a second. I have Joe Macaluso. Joe is one of our lead mechanical engineers, 40 years experience, and he's going to lead the engineering team over the design of this project. He's walked the facility, he knows the equipment firsthand, and we're going to go over everything from A to Z. We were retained by the town in November 2011 and have been working with the building committee for the last 2 years. And I just want to spend 15 minutes and just give an overview of where we've come from November 2011 to where we are today. And that's what we have laid out in this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, very briefly, AKF Engineers. We're a leading consulting engineering firm, founded in 1989, 400-person firm. We're kind of a mid-sized firm. We have 10 offices throughout the United States and 2 in Mexico. But what really sets us apart, what makes us unique, is number one, the comprehensive services. We have experts in our field in all of these different areas. At our foundation, we do mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection, but we have all these other additional services, commissioning, where we actually fine-tune the equipment. We have information technology. We do all the low-voltage services within building, which is IT, AV, and security. We do analysis and testings. We have lighting design. And then so it's the comprehensive services and then also our unique firm culture. And it's led by our core values, integrity, empowerment, and internal client. Just briefly, we've done both new school building projects as well as major renovations. We've done the new middle school for Fairfield schools and renovation of their 2 high schools, and we've did the engineering for the Stanford 9th grade edition for Stanford High School. We also do on-call engineering work for many school districts throughout the state. The Danbury School District, we did a district-wide boiler upgrade project. That was an energy performance contract that we're going to talk about tonight. Joe led the effort in that one. And also the Greenwich School District, we do on-call services for them as well. And just very briefly, I just wanted to show you one of the new state-of-the-art school projects that we've designed. This is for the New York City School Construction Authority. It's a brand new building. It's a net zero energy building, meaning that all the energy that is used in a year's time is harvested on site at this school. So it has a large PV array on the roof, and then it has very energy efficient systems. It uses geothermal heat pump technology. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight because we analyzed that for this school. And then it does a lot with getting daylighting into the classrooms so there's not as much lighting load. But the main thing, and I highlighted that in green at the bottom there was a major focus on teacher and student engagement, because energy use is ultimately comes down to the users. How are they using energy? And to get them to understand their impact on energy in the building. And we're going to talk about that for your project as well. So we were retained in November 2011, and this is the process that we went through. The first thing is that we did a review of the existing facilities at your school. We performed an energy evaluation of how you're currently consuming energy. We identified energy conservation measures. We evaluated renewable energy options for the building. We developed a scope of work for a renovation project, and then we provided consultation services and went out to RFQ and RFP process for an energy performance contractor. And I'm going to tell you how we got to each one of those steps. So starting with the existing conditions, Joe Macaluso here did that work, and I'd like him to talk about that.
Thanks, John. What you see there is a sampling of the kinds of issues that we have to deal with at the school, and the condition of the equipment that we're going to be dealing with. Here is a boiler that right now serves as pool heating. That boiler will be replaced. The new boiler plant will take that role, so that you have a more centralized plant. You'll have the benefit of reduced maintenance. Here is a ventilation unit. it's very old. A lot of this equipment is beyond its useful life, its normal life cycle. It shows signs of corrosion and should be replaced. Here, it's very difficult to see, but here in the corner is a sign of the envelope weakness that's problematic in the building, where there's a roof leak and there's actually some humidity gathering bags there to try to mitigate that. Here in this photo is an exhaust fan that is missing components. At the time the picture was taken, it was obviously out of service, and that system was not functional. Here is a shot of the boilers. The boilers have had problems with sections failing, and as Dr. Stella mentioned, they've had problems with burnout, and it's been problematic. Those boilers really have to be replaced almost as an emergency measure. Down here, lastly, is one of the rooftop air conditioning units. You can see on the hood there the signs of corrosion. This equipment is well past its normal life. Here is an example of the heat loss through the envelope, and the two sets of pictures show a comparison of thermal imaging, which, as you can see from these students, infrared differs from photographic in that it measures heat intensity emitted from a surface. So these two young ladies are very healthy and warm, except for their cold noses. And similarly, this is a shot of the building envelope, and the bright spots you see there in the grid work are the mullions between the glass. This is an old glazing system. It's probably not what we would call thermally broken, which means that you have a metal fin which conducts heat inside directly out. So it's a great source of heat loss. You can see how bright those components are. And here again is another shot, a little difficult to see in this picture, but there are soffit vents. This is looking up at the underside of the soffit at the bottom of the roof. There are openings in there for venting. As it states here, we're not really sure how that was intended to operate. The intent is to close these up. We will, of course, get the advice of an architect just to make sure that structural venting is preserved and find a way to do that where we don't get this kind of heat loss of warm air exiting the building. John?
Okay, so we started our process just by looking at the energy use in the existing building. And when we started, this is what the energy profile looked like a couple of years ago. So what it shows here is that the current annual energy consumption is about $450,000 a year. And what this shows is that the bulk of it is from heating loss, and then there's, heating, for heating the building, and then a lot goes to lighting, a lot goes to operating those fans that Joe was speaking about. Very small portion of the building is air conditioned now, so the cooling load was relatively minor. So as part of the project, we knew that we would be introducing air conditioning to the building. And there was different options on how to air condition the building, and we analyzed a couple of them. Number one, we could just put a high efficiency gas boiler and an air-cooled chiller. Or we could have put a geothermal heat pump system. Geothermal is one of the high efficiency modern technologies, so we just looked at the two of them for comparison. The first thing that we did was we said if the whole building was air conditioned with the type of technology you had there now, what would the energy cost be for the building? And we projected it would go up from the $450,000 to that $600,000 using the current kind of old antiquated technology you have there right now. It's kind of like a hypothetical. And then from that baseline, if you did your high efficiency boiler and chiller, your energy cost a year would be about $500,000. And if you did the geothermal heat pump system, it would be about $482,000. So it showed that the geothermal heat pump system only outperformed the high efficiency gas boiler and chiller by about $15,000 or $16,000 a year. It's because heat pump equipment operates on electricity. Electricity is relatively expensive in this area. It's about 18 cents a kilowatt hour, whereas gas now, there's a boom for gas in the country. Gas prices are dropping lower. Gas is only about $1 a therm. So from this, it told us that it paid just to go with the high-efficiency conventional system gas and air-cooled chiller and not go through the expense of drilling a lot of wells for the newer technology. This is a chart of your energy consumption over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, you used electricity and you bought fuel oil. Last year, the burners on the boilers, the oil burners were replaced with gas burners. So last year, you switched over to gas for heating. You still use some oil in the town portion of the building, but this just shows that the cost curve has already been reduced by that one improvement. You put new burners on old boilers. Really, the boilers should have been replaced last year, but new burners went on. You saved, if you look at your cost from 2011 to 2012, your electric costs stayed about the same. You were spending about $150,000 in fuel oil 2 years ago, and then last year about $50,000 in oil and about another $40,000. So you saved $60,000 last year just by switching to the gas fuel. So from our overall analysis of your building and systems, we came up with these recommendations for how to improve the building performance. Number one, to improve the building envelope. Number two, to replace the boilers with high-efficiency gas boilers. Number three, install controls. So that's BMS stands for Building Management System. That turns on and off your systems. It maintains temperature throughout the building. Right now, you have an old antiquated control system. Fans stay on all day long. Lights are turned on in the morning, turned off at the end of the day. So there's a lot of better ways to approach things with new control systems that pay back for themselves almost immediately. So we're recommending new building management control system, new lighting controls, occupancy sensors in the classrooms. When the class leaves, the lights go off. When they come back, comes back on. The microturbine is a device that burns gas, produces electricity, and then there's waste heat associated with it. So you have a use for heat year-round because there's a pool in the building and you use domestic hot water. So even in the summertime, the pool still gets heated up and you still use hot water in the building. So we felt that would be a good energy-efficient option. When you purchase electricity from the utility company, about 40 cents at every dollar that you spend is wasted. The utility company is only so efficient, and then distribution losses. So this is a way where you could produce your own electricity on site and do it more efficiently than the electricity that you purchase. We analyze solar PV panels, photovoltaic panels, generate your own electricity on the roof. And then the wind turbine doesn't really pay back as an energy efficiency measure, but it's a good educational tool for children. So the other thing that we did was that we went on, the EPA has an energy portfolio manager database where schools all across the country log their annual energy use. And so we wanted to see how your building performed against your peer group across the country. And this is how it stacked up. On your baseline year, from July 2010 to June 2011, your what is called energy use intensity, how much energy you use per square foot per year, was an EUI of about 80 on site. And then the source energy, like we said, you purchase more energy, what the utility company has to produce to give you the amount you use, was up at about 140. The median schools, and you had an Energy Star rating of 38. That means you rank 38 percentile. 62% of the schools outperform this building right now. The median average, meaning 50% or better, 50% or less, this is where their energy use is. Our target is for this building to be an Energy Star, to have an Energy Star rating. and you have to rank in the top 25% to get there, and that's what this would look like. With all of the measures that we're recommending for your project, this is where we believe your energy performance could be for the building. Okay, now, we came up with a list of options that we felt we would recommend for this project. Lighting controls, boilers, BMS controls, and we came up with construction costs for each one. And your local utility company, UI, they have rebates that are available, that if you do them, you get rebates back. But then we looked at, there's federal tax incentives for a lot of these measures. But now you don't, you're a tax exempt organization, you don't pay tax, so you wouldn't qualify for them. But we thought there's $3.5 million that could potentially be available to you if you entered into some arrangement with a third party that could take advantage of those tax credits. It could help fund your project. So based on this analysis here, that's when we first started thinking about, would energy performance contracting be a benefit to your project? And it was for this reason here. So with the building committee, we did a whole analysis of what is energy performance contracting, and we learned a lot as an overall group. I didn't even understand it fully myself at the time. I'm going to let Doug speak to it more, but what we learned is that, number one, it's a design-build process of doing a project. Instead of where we would do a design and you would bid it to 10 contractors, this is where it's just a design build, where one company does the design and builds it themselves. And they do it to realize energy savings. So they're doing it to have quality built into it. They're doing it to have a performance at the end of this process. So let's go to the next slide. So what we did, we went out to, we put public notice out, and we asked for energy service companies to come in and give, to submit their qualifications. And these 4 companies responded: CCM, Energy Systems Group, Honeywell, and Source One. From those qualification packages, we narrowed it down to 2 companies, ESG and Honeywell. And we asked them to competitively bid to perform an investment grade audit. And they came in, they scoured your building, they looked at all these different energy opportunities, they added a lot that we didn't even look at ourselves, and they came back with competitive bids between the 2. And we chose ESG as having the superior package because of the more energy conservation measures and because of a higher guaranteed energy savings. I'm going to let Doug pick that up. He's going to give a whole history on what energy performance contracting is and what it's not. So we'll do that in the next session. And I want to just take a look at my sheets. There's the United States Green Building Council has this program called LEED. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with LEED. It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it's a rating system. It gives a definition of what is green. A lot of people can say that we have a green project. But so this is an independent, third-party, nonprofit organization that rates different projects. It's a rating system. So I sat there one day, and I kind of knew the project that we have laid out. And I took the LEED for Schools rating system. And I just did best guesstimates. What do I think? How many of these points do you think you would get for the project that we have planned? And it came up with 50 points. I don't know if you could read this at the bottom. It's down here. It says 50 to 59 points mean you can get a LEED silver rating. It came up with 50 definite yes. 50 points should be definite. 32 are maybes. So this means that with the project that's planned, it should be able to qualify for a LEED Gold project if you wanted to go for it. And there's some advantages for going for it also. I just took an example of some of the credits that I thought you might do, like number 1, joint use of facilities. And that's to make the school an integrated part of the community, which of course it already is. So it's a no-brainer. You would get that point. optimize energy performance, it's a goal of ours anyway. Construction waste management, how are you during the construction process? What are you doing with the waste that gets carted out? Are you recycling responsibly? Thermal comfort, it's something that the school is challenged by now, so it would be something good for us to pay attention to. And that credit, at the end of the project, you agree to do a survey of the students and the teachers, and you agree to make modifications so that 80% of them are happy with the thermal comfort at the end of the project. And finally, using the school as a teaching tool, which I think it just means that all the energy efficiency systems, we would educate the students, use it as an educating tool at the end. And the other picture I have here is just, it's a photo of a design charrette. And this is part of the LEAD process where you bring a LEAD consultant in and they would engage the community in environmental issues and just kind of educate the community as a whole about the school and environmental issues. So in closing, we set these project goals for the project. Number one, that we want to upgrade the building systems to serve the facility reliably for the next 25 years. Number two, we want to improve the building's energy performance. We want to have an enhanced indoor environmental quality for good learning environment. And we want to set our sights high. We want to achieve a high-performance building and leave a legacy for this community. So with that, Doug Tischbein from Energy Systems Group is our recommendation for an energy performance contract, and he's going to go through his presentation and explain what that's all about. And I don't know if you wanted to do questions now or at the end.
Some of the urgent questions.
Everybody good to go ahead with the presentation, otherwise question? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Or if you need to take a break, because I only have 65 slides. But I got it down to 5 seconds a slide. Tony made sure of that.
Yeah.
As John said, I'm Doug Tischbein with Energy Systems Group. We've been working on the project for probably well over 16 months. You notice I don't have any team members with me tonight, except for the community team members that have been with us for that period of time. But I can assure you, when I show you my slide of personnel that's been involved, it's been fairly significant. So we feel at this point we know Beecher Road School very well. Thanks to Dr. Stella and his staff for taking the time to show us and make us educated about the facilities. No, I think I'm good. So this is a brief, my meeting agenda is to talk about who we are. I know it's a first introduction to some of the new members on the boards. I want to talk about our team real quickly. We're in the business of developing strategic energy master plans for our clients. I'm going to kind of define what that is in performance contracting. Get into a lot of detail on the scope of work, even more than John did. I can go through that very quickly. Talk about some of the ECM summaries and highlights, the financial details, and then talk briefly about some of the project financing that's available through our business model. Energy Systems Group, we're an Indiana-based company. We were founded in 1994. We're owned by an Indiana utility company worth about $2 billion. They sell electricity and natural gas in the Indiana marketplace and Dayton, Ohio. I was the 11th employee in the company 17 years ago. Today we're about over 250. So we've had some fairly significant growth. Projects we've completed over $1 billion in a number of different markets, schools, hospitals, universities, and governments. Really our key market is in the K-12 marketplace. We do a lot of federal work as well. I talked briefly about strategic energy master plans, and so we take a holistic look at the campuses that we're serving. Your campus, of course, being the exterior and interior of the school. We won a number of awards, both at the federal and local level, number of clients. Energy Systems Group doesn't manufacture anything, therefore I'm not here to sell you a product. Our charter from our utility company is to be a solutions provider. So we find out where you are today and try to define migration paths based on the assets that are currently in place to get you to a point where you're more energy efficient to use savings to help offset some of the costs of the improvements. And then pre-qualified in the state of Connecticut as a qualified provider for this type of service. They issued, the state has gone through this process and they've selected what we call energy services companies, so we're one of those. We help our clients, we secure financial solutions. Really, we provide a number of different financing packages. Tony's going to talk about some. I want to talk about one a little bit later. Actually, I'll talk about it now. The state of Connecticut, because the governor has identified that energy efficiency is hot on his agenda, they've actually developed a program available through Bank of America that gives you a 1% rate buy down through a lease purchase program for these types of projects. So we're just in the beginning discussion of that, but it's 100 basis points is 100 basis points, which affects the total cost of the project. We build aging infrastructure, as John talked about. There's a bunch of old facilities out there. There's a bunch of old equipment, 64, 70, and 94. John talked about Beecher Road is less than 40% air conditioned. I know we talked about the status of the boilers, but when you go through there in the summertime and you get into some of those classrooms, the window shakers, I call them, they're all cranked down to about 64 degrees and they're running as hard as they can. So we've got a very good air conditioning plan that's interrelated to a lot of the other work that we're proposing for the school. John talked about the control systems, high humidity. We've talked about that and the bags that are hanging in some of the classrooms for collection of the humidity that's in the classrooms. Strategic Energy Master Plans, again, this is a project that is also encompassing renewable and sustainable energy. So we've got photovoltaic up on top of a new roof. We've got the microturbine, we've got a wind turbine. So we've looked at all of the efficiencies and technologies that's available to you to help you reduce your costs as far as it can go. Greenhouse gas, reduce your carbon, and then John talked about the Energy Star, and that's a very significant rating. Most of the schools that we do work on, we present the plaque that's given to us from the Department of Energy, and it's really nice when you walk into your school and you see an Energy Star plaque on the exterior. This is our footprint. As you can see, there's a little dark spot that's kind of missing, so you are our first client in Connecticut. As I tell my board of directors, we better do it right, because I only get one chance. Right? You'll be our next reference. A couple of references on our side: Baltimore Public Schools, large school corporation, 34 buildings, roughly 3 million square feet, $23 million project, funded out of a tax-exempt bond with some state capital dollars through us. A number of different measures that we're also providing for you. You can see the annual energy savings, about 1.1. We had some construction savings, about $500,000. There's operational savings on the maintenance side of about $2 million. And then our actual savings to date, 1.8. I'm going to talk about this option C and how we measure and verify energy savings here in an upcoming slide. This is one of my projects. I've been with the superintendent for about 12 years. He's now engaged us to develop phase 8 for him. He's a $35 million client. A number of schools, 27, we've touched every one. And we've continued to measure and verify his energy guarantees, and we typically overachieve by 25 to 35%. So a very good client, available, both of these for a reference call at any time. So here's my team. I'm on the corporate side. Ted Edgar, who was supposed to be here tonight, got to Detroit, missed his plane, so he had to go back to Evansville. Otherwise, he'd be assisting me. And then another number of others that are on the engineering side, construction management side, our measurement verification specialists that are at our corporate level, and a number of our construction managers. So we've walked the facility, we know the personality, we know what it's going to take to do the job right for you. Strategic Energy Master Planning really kind of breaks down into 4 different segments. First of all, we analyze the supply side of your utility bill. We look at the rates, make sure you're on the right rates, make sure you're being billed, there aren't any errors in billing, and then how can we model that billing based on the assets that are currently in place. And then we look at the utilization side. So how are you using all of these utilities? Thirdly is how can we give you the information to help you manage the projects and utilities better as a part of the program. And then thirdly is the financial services. So really that's kind of the bundle of performance contracting. It's a design-build concept, as John talked about. So this is just kind of a sample of an understanding on how performance contracting works. Today, you're spending utility dollars, almost $500,000, and you're spending some maintenance dollars to maintain those assets. The program is designed to help you find savings within your existing budgets. So we've analyzed the maintenance and operating budgets, and we've analyzed the utility expenditures, and we've identified that there's about $250,000 a year in savings that we're going to help, and we're going to guarantee to give back to you to help pay for the improvements. So we reduce your energy costs. You no longer pay UI. Your maintenance costs are lower. You don't have emergency repairs and T&M expenses. And so you cost shift those dollars over to pay for the project. Very simple concept. And then we're going to talk about the actual numbers here in a little bit. So a couple of things. Guaranteed construction costs. This is a no change order contract. So that's why I spent 16 months going through the facility to understand what the construction conditions are. We think we understand that pretty well. In concert with AKF and the information that they've prepared for us. The only time that there's a change order is if the scope of work changes during construction by a request from you, or we have to accelerate the schedule because of a special event. I got to bring in more crews. It would be the only two times it would be with full authorization from the board of the school. Typically, most times it's a lower cost of construction than traditional methods, and we can identify that a little bit later. Guarantee in our energy expenses. So, as John has shown you, they've modeled that this new building, after it's fully air conditioned, is going to spend close to $600,000 a year in utility expenses. So we already know that it's fully calculated. Our guarantee is to reduce that cost by $250,000. If we do not, and we have to measure and verify that on an annual basis, I write a check for the difference between my guarantee and what the realized savings are. So if I fall short, writing a check. If I overachieve, you retain the savings for other investments or relief on your budgets. I don't share any overage, so it's not a shared savings program. And then thirdly is the guaranteed system performance. So we guarantee the performance of the systems that are being installed. Make sure we've got the right air changes, we've got the right lighting levels at the desk level, all those codes and requirements that we have to design to, we guarantee that those are in place. If they're not, then we come back on our dime in order to make those changes. And I talked a little bit earlier about the energy guarantee, and just a short story. We had a private university in Evansville, Indiana, that we put a cogeneration system in, which means that we took that campus off the grid. We were producing electricity for them. We put in the wrong kind of engine, unfortunately, and that engine failed catastrophically 3 times. After 2 rebuilds, we decided the 3rd time we're just not going to rebuild it. We wrote a check for $1 million to that client. So it's the real thing. We've missed 1 or 2 other ones, but so far our track record's pretty good. Okay. As I mentioned, we have an internal team for measurement verification. It's a dedicated team, and that's all they do. Currently, we have about $285 million in guaranteed energy savings outstanding in our portfolio. The federal government has adopted protocols and standards for how you measure and verify energy, and it's called the IPMVP, International Performance Measurement Verification Protocols. And that's what we have adopted as our standard as well. So it's not our own. We didn't just come up with some way to do it. It's all in the federal standards. As I mentioned, excess savings will become yours. The modeling that we use is Department of Energy. And then here's quantification of savings. As I talked about, there's a buy-down program available through Bank of America. It's administered by Bank of America, but it is provided by the local utility companies. That allows you to buy down your rate by 1% for electric consuming devices only. So for this particular project, we used about $6 million. We used about half of the project cost, which provides you a financing benefit of about $900,000. So I know Tony's still going through some of those evaluations, but we just wanted to bring it to your attention because it is a program that's available in the state. All we're doing is just providing you the benefit. We don't make any money on financing, we just arrange it. So C and D are the types of IPMPP protocols that we're using. The school basically has 2 electric meters and a new gas meter. One of them we're looking at is the whole building approach. So not to confuse you, but there's 2 other types of protocols available. I just want you to understand that we're measuring at the meter, and that's the way that our guarantee will be written. So the project, John talked about mechanical, the building management system, roofing systems, the window systems and building envelope. I have a very good slide that details that scope of work. Lighting and sensors, occupancy sensors, water conservation, renewable energy, miscellaneous improvements with the swimming pool cover, transformer replacements, some work in the kitchen area, casework and ceiling replacements. Limited discussion on ceiling upgrades, and then there's some canopy work that's being discussed at this point as well. So this is a floor plan of the school, and this is a very high-level overview of what the air conditioning plan is. So as you can see down here are the different types of air distribution systems that are going into the building. Right here is the existing boiler plant. We are going to reuse that boiler plant for the new boilers. The chiller is going to be located up on the roof, and the micro turbine will be up on the roof as well. So that's the heart of the whole system. This is A, B, and C wing that are all getting new unit ventilators. Those are the oldest ones in place. They're heating only currently. So these will now be heating and cooling. You can see our piping runs and how we pick up the pod, and down by Dr. Stella's office. We have air handlers being replaced, rooftop units, we've got fan cooling units. So as you can see, it's a fairly significant air conditioning plan to go from 40% to 100% air conditioning. This really gets into some of the detail. Here's a picture of the new boiler as compared to a picture of the old boiler. These new boilers are very low maintenance. The school corporation I talked about earlier, Beaver County, I put 33 of these in. They fit through a door. They're very easy to maintain. I'm not going to get into a lot of this detail unless you guys have questions specifically about any certain part of the area in the schools. This is still going to be all mechanical. These are A wing, and so you'll see the unit ventilators and the casework. Included in our proposal is replace all this casework, replace these unit ventilators, these window curtain wall systems all come out. And then on the other side of these classrooms, there's a hand sink and more casework that will be replaced as well. Rooftop units, again, we did an independent assessment because there were some conversations early in the process that maybe we could just do repairs to some of this equipment. AKF did an independent assessment and came in and with a recommendation that it really should all be replaced because of the condition of it. So that's why we're replacing all of it. There's a humidification issue in the pool area, as well as a infiltration problem with chlorine getting into some of the school area. The Dectron unit is a system that is very specialized for dehumidification. I think the system currently in place is not working. Is that right? Yeah. So we've got failed equipment. And as a part of our weatherization plan, we're going to be weatherizing the ramp going into the pool area so we don't have that infiltration of chlorine into the school area. Here's the building management system and the benefits that it'll provide. Right now, most everything in the school is pneumatically operated, which means it has air going through these little pipes everywhere. All of this is going to be transferred over to electronic, which will give Greg and the school the ability, as long as they can get on the internet, they have web access to the school no matter where they are. So they can bring it up, they can control it, they'll get alarms, they'll know what the operation is, they can turn equipment on and off. So it really becomes a very good management tool for the building operators. Here's the roofing plan. A, B, and C wing are receiving new roofs. The red lines is the layout for the PV. These are, I think, original roofs. Yeah, they are original. So we've upgraded this to a PVC roof, white reflective, so it's Energy Star rated, which will help us with the Energy Star rating. There's kind of what it'll look like, and then there's the existing roof. This is casework and sinks. Again, the pictures that I showed, these are the areas where the sinks are on the back of the classrooms. You can see the blue is going to be all new. The casework over in the K wing, because that casework is in good condition. However, we're taking out the unit ventilators. So in the K wing, we're just putting in casework where the unit ventilator was to match the existing. Curtain wall replacement, A, B, and C wings. Here's a picture of the A wing, and you can, sorry about that, it's so dark. It's the old brown bronze type, if you're familiar with it. This is the office area, and you see it's the bright brushed aluminum. At this point, we've chosen to go back for consistency in the building to make sure that we're using the bright brushed aluminum to just keep that consistently all the way through the school. This is really an important measure, because when I showed you the unit ventilators, this wall has to come out in order to get to the air conditioning equipment, because you really can't get to it from inside, because all the piping is down low. Lighting systems, there's just a couple of pictures. We've got some yellow lenses, some bulbs that are out. We're going through the facility and relamping everything to more energy efficiency. We've got occupancy sensors. When you walk into a classroom, it turns on. You walk out, it turns off automatically. John talked about with the microturbine, we're picking up domestic hot water with the waste heat coming off the microturbine. Our renewable projects, we've got 100 kW photovoltaic going on the roof in that middle section. We've got a 4 kW wind turbine. This is Vigo County Schools that I showed you as a reference. I put a little wind turbine in here, then they put a dashboard over in their science room that they use for science purposes. We built this building for them. It's a very good educational tool. And then this just shows you another option that's available, wind turbine wise. Another, a bunch of other ECMs we're doing, motors, drives in the kitchen. Transformers are old, need to be replaced, more efficient ones available in the marketplace today. Water conservation, we're going in with faucet journals, flushometers, replacing all of that, so we're addressing the water side as well. The pool cover will help you retain chlorine in the pool so it doesn't dissipate into the space. And then the building envelope. The building envelope, as John showed you, is a little bit leaky. And so we've gone through and really taken a hard look at how we can help seal the building. And so this really is our plan for weatherization within the entire school. So it's weather stripping, it's caulking, it's drywall in the soffits, it's just sealing up the building envelope. This is kind of what the weatherization plan looks like. It's doors. There's a couple of garage doors that will be weather stripped. We've got the roof wall intersection John talked about. There's some I-beams out there that kind of collect the heating and the cooling and bring it into the space. So there's just a number of things. It's a pretty, I think, inclusive plan to just make sure that what we're doing inside now with upgraded systems is going to stay inside instead of penetrating out to the exterior. One of the most important things is really the maintenance plan. There's been a lot of discussion about what happens to the assets after the project is completed. And these are a number of steps that we've taken with some other clients, is that we bring in manufacturers, we video record training programs by the manufacturers, and we use that video recording for future employees that may come on site and be an employee of the school. They can use it for refreshers if they want to learn how to maintain the chiller or the boilers or operate the microturbine. So it becomes really a library for future use. We make recommendations. Our team is very good at maintaining assets. We do that a lot for the federal government, so we bring those recommendations to you. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's about standardization. So we can help you reduce your costs further if we can standardize for the future. So that's kind of what the plan has been centered around. That's my scope. Any questions? I know that's a lot of information. So here's the financial overview. At this point, the investment amount is about $13.5 million. That does not include the cost of interest. We have a guaranteed utility savings of $253,000 a year. We've estimated that the maintenance savings impact is going to be about $30,000 a year. We've already substantiated that $12,000 of that is because the boilers are going to be replaced, and the new boilers are very low maintenance. Most of my clients maintain them themselves. I think the school is spending $12,000 a year to maintain what they currently have, which doesn't include any of the repairs that they also have to do. So we've got some O&M savings there. Total savings annually is about $283,000. Over 15 years, about $4.2 million. There is some aid out there from the state that we still have to have discussions on. John talked about the tax credits that are available. We have agreed that we're passing those tax credits through to you through a discount in the project investment amount worth about $260,000. And then your utility company has rebates worth about $400,000. And I think that's a minimum amount. It's estimated at this point. We've started discussions with them right now. So I think the really good thing about this project, as we were talking about earlier, is that this building becomes so energy efficient, and you are using so many new technologies to bring this whole infrastructure together that it really makes it a very sustainable building. And I wish I could do this in my own town, but I think it really gives you the ability to be proud of the investment, because not only are you going to get national recognition, which I haven't really talked about, but we have a very good marketing department that when we have projects like this, we bring on and we splash all of the media outlets that we possibly can. We develop websites for our clients to allow your community to look at construction progress. Because we do so much work for K-12, we develop what we call Kids Corner. We put it on the website that gives kids in the schools the ability to go and learn about energy education and efficiency. So there's a lot of things that are kind of supplemental to this that's really going to help you get to a plateau. And it's going to take you to a place that you are much better than you are today. And then we talked about the additional $900,000 on the bond financing. Contracting terms, we've had some discussions about transparency. Our project is fully bonded. Payment performance, we have competitively bid most of the major components of the project: mechanical, roof, controls, lighting, most of those. I'm sorry, all of those. And when we look at subcontractors, I'd say probably 80% of the contractors we're using are local contractors, so the money stays in the community. We make sure that they're bondable. We look at their Dun & Bradstreets and make sure, and we check references. So we feel right now everybody is very qualified. We issued in the initial request for proposal that John put out as a cost plus style contract. So everything's going to be transparent. You'll see what the markups are. We use standard AIA billing based on completion and progress. Client will sign off on that billing item before we send the bill to make sure that you're agreeing that scope of work has been completed, and then costs will be itemized on the invoices. Sorry.
Thank you.
Nice job. Thanks. It's a lot of scope. I'm sorry. Spend so much time. It's such a great project. I have a passion for it.
Are there questions for John?
I'd just like this, for people watching, and maybe they'll hear this when the presentation is made for the council. Typically, with a project, most recently, for example, Public Works, we have a building committee which comes up with ideas, and they engage architects to look at these ideas and come up with a proposal. Then it goes to the town, based on what the architect is telling us. It goes to the town, and they approve it, and then it goes out to bid. I think this is a little different. This is, we've got a figure, okay? And when we go to the town with this, we go to referendum, and if it's approved, there's no bidding process. It's done, right? Just for the people who, it's a little different this time around. It's going to be done because you're going to be doing all the work. And I just want to make that clear, because I think people out there are saying, AKF, ESG, what are all these letters, you know? And there's two groups involved here, and just for the clarification, there will be no bidding, well, there was a bidding process, I guess an internal bidding process, and you chose, because of the technicality, this doesn't go out to a FUSCO or whatever, it has to go out to somebody with energy savings expertise. So I just want to make that clear. I think people who are watching this might not be completely clear as to how this is going, so I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you.
Could you go over again how you got to the net investment of the 8.6 million from the 13?
I think I have a typo in there.
Right.
Right. You want to talk about it?
Okay.
So the net investment of $13.6 million, the investment amount, excuse me, is the cost of the project.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then if you take the guaranteed utility savings of 253 and the maintenance savings of 30, you get 283.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
That out 15 years
Okay.
gives you the 4.
So you're subtracting the 4.2
So you subtract the
from the
13.5.
13.5.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
And then you have an additional subtraction of the EPAC tax credit, which is $400,000 in UI utilities.
Okay. And what's the time frame for the tax credit and the UI rebates? I mean, is that over 15 years, or is that in the first 5 years?
It's a
One-time payment.
One time. And so when does that come in the life of the project?
At project completion. So right now, we're on a 2-year construction schedule.
Uh-huh.
Well, let me back up. The UI rebates, I believe, can be funded as the components of the project are completed. So for example, we'll have lighting rebates. So when the lighting portion of the project is done, we'll apply for the rebate for that, and then that'll come in. So lighting, controls, water conservation are the items that are going to move very quickly. So we're actually planning construction probably first quarter of next year for those items. So those rebates will come in quicker. The EPAC tax credit is at after substantial completion. But you're getting the benefit of this now because we're passing it through in the price of the contract.
Okay. And is this the money that we're paying you, the 13.6?
That's our.
And you're purchasing all the equipment that we need?
Yes.
Everything. And so you mentioned before, any of the credits that you get, you will pass on to the town by reducing the amount of
That's
the
correct.
project.
Yeah,
But you can't do that up front.
These rebates will come directly to you. We're just an administrator to go apply for them and get them, and they're going to come directly to you.
I see.
This comes to us because we're
Right.
because you're tax exempt, you can't take the credit.
Mhm.
So we're passing that through our investment price. And then I attended a state meeting today in Hartford, and there are some other credits and grants that are becoming available. We're going to continue to start the research.
Okay.
As those become available, then those will go direct to you as well.
So the item that's not in this analysis is what the budget impact is, which is a little different.
Yes.
And that includes the interest on the debt and the additional utility costs that are as a result of the air conditioning. Right, because those are budget impacts, not so much project related, right? So sort of the discussion that has to take place, and we're still putting together the information, so is twofold. First of all, the budget impact of those items, and also the different methods of financing, as alluded to, in terms of lease financing, which is a 15-year term, and bond financing, which is historically what we do. There's benefits and drawbacks to each, which we plan to lay out for you at some point.
What is the timing of when this would start, and how long does it take?
Well, I don't think Dr. Stella can give us this building for 1 year. It's the building that lives and breathes year-round. So right now, we're on a 2-year construction schedule. And we're planning on starting in first quarter of 14.
Doug, can you go back to the slide for a moment? I had a question. The EPAC tax credit, $260,000, that is not included in the 13.591, or it is?
It is included in the 13.5. I shouldn't have showed it as a deduct here. That was my error.
So it's already in.
It is already.
It's already in the number.
Yeah, and the other thing I should point out is there is a measurement verification fee that we have to generate our reports on an annual basis to comply with the guaranteed energy savings approach, and right now that's budgeted at $10,000 a year. So there is an ongoing fee for that, but it's minimal, and it shows you that we're either meeting our guarantees or not meeting our guarantees. The benefit of that report is that we get utility bills every month, and we measure and verify and track those. And so we will be able to see if this building is consuming more energy than what we had anticipated based on our guarantee levels. And so it's very interactive when we come out and meet with the school personnel and administration, saying we're seeing some blips in your utility tracking. Are you doing anything differently? So it's kind of a way for us to help continue to be involved with the process to help manage the utility side of the program. It's a $10,000 fee at this point. I'm sure it's going to be negotiated.
And with respect to the net project investment, just to clarify Tony's point, that does not include the interest that we'll be paying no matter what the method of financing, and that could be in the $4 million
It's about $4
range,
million, yeah.
something like that. So the net project investment to the town, when you look at interest also, is probably about $4 million more.
Yeah.
Right.
That's itemized.
Over the course of the finance.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But looking at net,
Because the
just to be
15-year,
clear.
the savings is over the course of the
Right.
Right.
financing. You
Right.
should include
Right.
the interest if you're going to compare.
Correct.
It's basically a
Apples to
wash.
Gets
It's
to-
a wash.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Other questions for John?
I have
Yep.
a couple of questions. I'd like to take a step back, if I can, for a second. Over the last month, Mr. Kaufman and Dr. Stella have informed us about this possible boiler system problem we're having currently, or definite boiler system problem, making it such that it's a possibility we may need to replace the boiler. Have you been in contact with them? I wouldn't want to replace that boiler with something that doesn't fit your project and then have you get approved and come in a year later and rip it out again.
Yeah,
So has that been something that you've been in discussions about, and,
we have.
okay?
Yeah, we've been involved with those discussions because you're exactly right. That heating, cooling plant is really the whole brains for this master plan. And so we, John and AKF, specify a certain type of boiler, which is called ESCO, which is what we would install as well. And so we're consistent with the manufacturer.
Great.
Okay.
And then my next question is, if you're approved for this project, who would be doing the oversight, quality control, and who's paying for that? And do we have has that discussion happened, and can you tell me a little more about that?
So on my side, I have construction managers and supervisors on site, responsible for quality control, delivery schedules, typical construction processes. I believe there's discussion, and somebody from the town may want to talk about owner's representative overseeing ESG. So I think maybe.
Yes, I can speak to that. The plan is that John Rice and his firm would be the owner's representative. He's been involved in every phase of this and would be overseeing the project. The number is included in that number. It's included in the number for the
So
project.
it goes basically through the project, through you.
The funding, yeah, it would be included in that investment.
So
But it probably doesn't come through us to him. You're going to have
Through your project.
contractual relationship with him for that oversight.
Exactly the means of payment, whether it would be in that number and come back to us, or that number would be reduced, we have to work out. But John and his company would be working it for us.
Okay, and my last question is, when you came before the board in January, the numbers were a little different. Can you speak to why they're higher now? Is that just a security difference? For example, when you were here, it was 12.49, now it's 13.5, so it's about $1 million higher.
Yeah.
Any particular reason, or?
Yeah, we added casework in all of the classrooms for about $450,000. And then we added the security, which I think is budgeted somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000. So the scope has changed at the request of the building committee.
So I just wanted to add from the
building committee, we're also still investigating some information from the state that might also be in addition to the owner's representative. There's the state program, and if it's possible for us to be in the state program, that's another level of information that we would have on this project. There are some owner's rep kind of services that are offered by the state, and if we're in the program, we get those services. So that's still being investigated by the building committee.
Thank you. Susan? Oh, did you want to go ahead? No, go ahead.
Mine's real quick, I think. I don't know who it's for, actually, but I actually like what I'm hearing here, but going back, I know at one point there was a $20 million number in project. So my question, I guess, is, are we proceeding with this project because there's no other work to the interior of the building that's required, or are we doing it because we wanted to save the money, or, you know, and a follow-up to that would be, if there is some work, which I suspect there is, that will eventually need to be done on the interior of this building, when might that be?
I'm going to offer that to the building committee.
Jeff, do you want to speak?
When you walk into this building after this project, you'll feel like you're in a new renovation building. There's a number of areas that are being painted, there's new ceilings being put in all the hallways, all the walls, all the outside walls in all these rooms are going to be are brand new. All the millwork is brand new. Things that were in the other project, to give you an example of that aren't included in this project, the other project was recommending that bathrooms be combined to have more handicap bathrooms. Well, the code doesn't actually require that. It's kind of like a wish kind of thing. The building has handicap bathrooms. It doesn't actually need any more in order to be in code. So those are the kind of things that were changing numbers between this project and that project.
Okay, thanks. Just one other follow-up, I guess. At some point in time, will we be able to see in more detail some workups of what the interior is going to? Because you certainly, from that presentation, I could never get to what Mr. Kaufman just said.
Absolutely.
So it would be helpful if we could, at some point, see that representation.
Yep.
Just the other point, the other comment on that one, that we did receive a proposal from an architect, Herb Partners, to perform architectural services, and he is focused on what the project is going to look like after it's complete.
Look, could you put that project cost thing up again, just to clarify a couple of points?
No, that's all
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry, no, that's okay.
Age before beauty.
No. Okay, just
Just saying.
Just to clarify, this working this down to this 8.6 million. We're going to have to bond 13.5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Plus interest. Okay.
Correct.
Working down to that number, I mean, I don't know that I agree with the term net project investment, because the utility savings and the maintenance savings are going to go to the Board of Ed. You could say, well, if they go to the Board of Ed, they go to the town, but not necessarily. So I find that a little misleading. That I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with the way it's presented. I just want to make that clear, that if this is approved, we're going to bond 13.591 million and plus interest, and then if we generate these savings, they're going to go to the Board of Ed, and we're going to get the 260, I guess, and the 400. So I don't know that I agree with that the way you brought that down to the 8.6 million. The net cost to the town, maybe the net cost or the net overall, but I don't know if that's the net investment. I don't think that's the
Not
right.
really understanding what budget is paying for what. The
Yeah.
only thing I was trying to do here is just show that there's money available
Right.
by reducing your utility expenditures and by taking advantage of some of the credits or rebates that are available,
Yeah.
that ultimately that's worth somewhere between almost $5 million.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're finding money out there that's already being spent that we're cost shifting over to reduce the amount of the investment.
Yeah, our investment is going to be 13.5
That's
plus interest.
That's correct.
If there's savings, they're going to go to the Board of Ed on an annual basis, which again, you could say it goes to that, but I don't think it reduces our investment. So I just
Matt, some of the utility savings is the town, because right now you pay for the pool.
Okay.
And that's a piece of that utility savings.
okay.
You're not getting any savings yet because you're not on gas.
They said 4. Okay.
Susan, want to give
I think last time you were here, I asked this question, and I just want, for clarification, I want to ask it again. So your model is a 15-year model.
It is.
But this equipment is anticipated, or the systems, if you will, are anticipated to hopefully last longer than 15 years.
Yeah,
correct?
mostly 15 to 20 years.
Okay. So, but there's no guaranteed utility savings beyond the 15 years that you're going to stand behind.
We typically guarantee for the term of the financing.
Just the time, the 15 years.
And
Okay.
under the lease program, the maximum you can do is 15 years.
Okay. And for the, if we're paying you $10,000 a year for verification of these various savings, that's only for the 15 years as well. And what happens if we don't realize the savings? We're still paying you the $10,000, correct?
In what year?
Let's say year one.
Yeah, if you don't, if my report to you shows that you're not meeting the $250,000 a year, I write you a check.
Okay. What about year 5?
I write you a check.
Year 15?
I write you a check.
Okay.
You're
16,
You're 16.
You're 16, we write him a check. So here's my question. So the guarantee, there must be variables associated with that guarantee. So for instance, school population?
Yes.
Change or not change? Is that change the guarantee?
There are variables.
Okay, so what are those variables?
Heating degree days, cooling degree days, facility utilization. If you bring in 5,000 computers and you plug them all in, I want to know that. So there are adjustments that go into the software program based on information available from the National Weather Service, based on information from the school administration, that balance the reports from the base year to the current year. Okay. So all of those are your information you're providing to us, or the National Weather Service is providing to us.
So the amount of the guaranteed savings will change year to year?
No.
It's contractual day one?
Yep.
Okay, but you adjust according to all this information?
Yes.
It's what, I think it's.
You're actually guaranteeing the units, not the dollars, correct? It's important to recognize that.
It's units.
The usage.
So it's your
So it's
kilowatt hours.
kilowatt
it's your
hours or-
UTUs,
Okay,
it's your-
but we're paying you for that verification service.
Yes,
And in the event that it's not verified, then it's translated into dollars,
yes,
okay?
yes.
All right. And I thought
Yeah, we're going to know really early in the process whether we're making the guarantee or not. So I'll know in year 2 or 3, 2 or 3, if we miss something, then I got to come in and fix it.
Okay, all right, well, that's helpful,
Or
thank you.
writing checks.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, thank you.
I have sort of a picayune question about the micro turbine. No one is, the school where you have the cogen plant, you say, is off the grid, and no one is suggesting that this will take Beecher Road School off the grid, but what percentage of its power use will be generated by this? And is that part of the savings? Is that?
That's part of the savings. I'm going to defer to my engineer on that.
Yeah, a microturbine is sized, it has a certain kW rating, how much electricity it produces. This one is 65 kW. And what we're concerned with, we wanted to do just the minimum, it runs all the time. So it's always producing electricity, it's always producing this heat at the same time. So we want to make sure that at every time you could use it. So we looked at your electric load profile for the building, and we looked on evenings and weekends. And you were dipping down a little bit below 65. So, you get the base load, so you could...
That's how you decided what size?
Yes, that's right. And then it turns out that a microturbine is 52% heat efficiency, and what do we say, about 21% electric efficiency. So overall, it's about 73% efficient. And as I said, your utility company is 58%, so you get about 15% better efficiency running your microturbine than purchasing that same amount from the utility company, if you use all the electricity and if you use all the heat.
So, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else?
Thank
It was
you very
crystal
much.
clear, so there were no questions. Thank you. Margaret, would you like to give us an update from the board?
Sure.
As a chair from the Board of Ed, I have attended almost all of the town building committee meetings. And I just want to say I appreciate all the time and effort and the expertise that has been brought by all of the participants in those meetings. It's amazing. I think the town building committee would agree that I've been a vocal participant of the upgrade, a proponent of the upgrade, and sometimes a little too vocal in our desire as the board to get the work started. December 17th of 2012, the board was asked to approve the project, to endorse the building project as recommended by the town building committee. As Jeff said, we did that by a vote in favor of 8-1. Since then, we have a new Board of Ed, 5 new members on the Board of Ed. All of the new members included support of the building upgrade in their campaign. And we spent a little time yesterday at our Board of Ed meeting just going over a very high-level summary compared to what we saw tonight on the project. So the presentation tonight includes the same recommendation that was given to the Board of Ed back in December of 2012 with the addition of the security upgrades. Beecher Road School is one of the town's greatest assets. The administration and the staff at Beecher School are amazing. You heard a little bit about the CMT presentation. Not only do the kids do really well on that one measure, they're happy. You go into that school, kids come after school, kids come to the ice cream social, kids want to be there. It's a great asset. It serves the entire child, socially, emotionally, academically. It's a great school. At this point, the status of the building is starting to detract from the learning environment at Beecher Road School. Too often, we have to move children in the classrooms because of the noise caused by some of the fans in the existing system, the uneven heating. In the winter, sometimes rooms are too hot, others are too cold, and we may have to move kids around. Maintenance, we have crises, we have to move kids in order to maintain certain areas of the building. And just again, like the roof leaks, we have a lot of patching going on. So all of that detracts from the learning environment. The building upgrade that's recommended by the town building committee it addresses those issues. It focuses on the HVAC, the energy, the roof, the building envelope. It doesn't include a lot of cosmetic or nice to have, and it's not things, we're looking, to your question, there isn't things left. Some of the things that were in the prior project have been done. We tried to focus as much of the surplus money that the town allowed us to spend last year on building improvements. So where we could do those things that did not impact the project, we did. So we've been working on it as well. And I just want to say thank you to the town, thank you to the building committee. This presentation, I think, is really, it really does get you excited. You want to start the building project tomorrow. So I just want to say thank you to everybody and the Board of Ed. Again, we've supported the building project when it was presented before. It's the same project again with some additions. And we've got parents, we've got a community, I think, ready to support this project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Tony's presentation on financial impact. I think we covered
covered
quite
most
a
of
bit.
that,
I don't know if
correct,
there's
yeah.
anything you want to add, Tony?
No, I think we covered most of it. It's just that once we have some of these numbers final, we'll have an analysis for you to review in terms of various financing options and the benefits and drawbacks of each, and the tax impact and the budget impact of the project. Just something for you to look forward to.
So what's the timing on this? What's the timing for our next impactful session?
Yeah,
Well,
where do we go from there?
that takes us to Jeff's request that the building committee be authorized to begin public hearings, to hold at least 2 public hearings to start presenting this to the public. And this would be a Board of Selectmen approval. So I actually would like to entertain a motion from the Board of Selectmen that we authorize the Beecher Road Building Committee to begin holding public hearings to introduce this plan to the public. I think it's particularly important given that it's a $13 million project. People need to understand it and understand the finances and the impact on the town. So,
Can I ask a question before we get there? I have one question, actually for Jeff, because I'm going back to the minutes of January when the committee came before the board and ESG came as well. I was here in the audience. one of the things, and it was brought up at the very beginning, but I really didn't hear the answer, was, I'm reading the charge. I remember when they, at that time, put it back to the building committee, the main issue, and if you look at charge A and E, was to look at it in phases. Could it be done in phases? And the charges were to talk that over, find out what it would be as far as timing and cost to do it in phases. I didn't really hear that. Is there an answer to that? Has that been looked at? I went through the minutes of the building committee the last several months. I don't see the talk of phases, so has that been discussed, and would that be brought up? I'd want that as part of the discussion for the public. If it's an option, I'd like to know.
Yeah, I know Jeff mentioned it, but did not go into detail.
It was discussed early on, and we had no idea when we started this process that this project that was around $20 million would suddenly be down below $10 million, because that's actually where it started, and then it got right above $10 million. And so then it became more of a realistic number that one felt the town could deal with. We did actually go back and forth with ESG and AKF on phasing it, and it almost turned into getting more expensive by starting the project, stopping it, and then starting it, kind of phasing it through there. So at one point the project was going to be done in 1 year. Now it's actually going to be done over 2 years. But we did actually look at all that. We actually went in with the idea that we thought it was going to be 2 or 3 phases. Then once we saw where the numbers were coming in and how everything was interrelated to each other, it didn't really make sense.
Right. I remember that, Jeff, when the building committee came before the board in January. I guess my question is, in January, to end that meeting, there were multiple charges that were given to the committee as far as responsibilities, and I remember well, and it's in the minutes, about going back to look at the phasing because people had concerns over the impact that Tony had talked about at that meeting, and could it be done in phases, and to take a second look at that. So I guess my question is, has that been done since that January meeting, or have you basically ruled out as a building committee phases completely?
I don't know the exact timing about when we did, so I'm a little hesitant to say yes or no, but it's easy to go back and look at. Because there was a phase, no pun intended, there was a time when we actually did look at it, so I'm not sure exactly when it was.
But in your mind now, the building committee feels confident that phasing is not an option?
Through the advice of our consultants, yes.
If I could just add on to that, because I was at that meeting as well. Tony had presented a chart showing the, I guess, tax impact, and at the time you were peaking at 1 year, maybe 2016. The way the project, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, the way this works is you're going to do your project over 2 years, and they start their financial impact after you complete. They make their first payment after you're complete. So correct. We think that even with the one phase, it still accomplishes what you were looking in the phased approach to the project, where the town starts making.
So that's an impact. That's that's part of the financial analysis as to the type of funding that you decide. When we do a bond financing, typically we capitalize the interest, temporary short-term interest into the project, and then you borrow at the conclusion of the project, and that's when your payments start. If we do a lease financing, there are some interest payments required as soon as we issue shortly after we issue the lease financing. So there's a little more upfront and there's part of that analysis that we have to put together.
Andy?
There was a phasing program proposed. It was a 3-year phasing program. It was documented and presented to the building committee, and it was taken under advisement. And basically, then it was pulled back to 2 years. It was seen to be, after the 3-year, seemed to be more economical to bring in a 2-year program. But there was a presentation of a phasing program over 3 years.
Sandy?
Is it customary that the Board of Selectmen see the materials that are going to be shared in the public hearings prior to going forward? And I'm asking that, I mean, as a town resident, I would want to see the type of materials that Joe, mentioned. What is this really going to look like? How are you going to explain it to the residents of the town compared to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen? I, as a resident, would also want to know about the financing. What is this really going to cost me as a taxpayer? So does it really pay to start these public hearings before we have that complete presentation? So we can endorse, this project and we want it to move forward, but I'm concerned about the quality of the material and the story that we're trying to tell the public.
You feel that it's not quite ready?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree totally.
In January, when the last time they presented, by that time, because I guess Tony had the numbers earlier in the town, Tony was able to present different options and payments and financial impact, tax impact, and I think that's very helpful when you see these charts and numbers laid right out, and he did a great job doing that. I think this is if we have this as one of the tools and what Joe is asking for, which is a more complete picture of the project, I think it helps very much to tell the story.
Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
Okay, going back to what actually Matt was explaining before, this is kind of a different process than what we're all used to. And a lot of the actual pictures, obviously there's lists and what's included, and we can show you that, but there aren't pretty graphic pictures that show these things, because we actually haven't engaged anyone's services to actually draw these things up and make the final design decisions. We have a list of everything that's happening in the project, so I don't want to fool anybody by saying that we have fancy watercolors. The reason to go to for public comment is to obviously explain the project. Pretty much what you've seen tonight is what we would be presenting at the first public meeting, and it's to get people's input as far as, do they think this is a good project or not? Do they think this is, are we asking for too much money when we're saying $13.5 million? And should the building committee go back with the Board of Ed and work out maybe this number something should be pulled out of the project to make it lower? So I don't want to, there's nothing to mislead. In other words, until someone actually engages the services of someone to draw pretty pictures, there aren't pretty pictures.
So let me ask it this way. What would your time frame be for trying to schedule these informational meetings?
Well, we're looking to do October and November.
Okay, so given that, because I think the point about the financial information is very important, would you have all that financial and financing data ready for presentation at that point?
No, not, well...
No, I was asking Tony.
Sort of.
We don't really want him to. We've kind of talked about this. We don't really want the full financial. He won't be able to give a full financial presentation at the first meeting, because we want to get input and we want to see if we're actually going to change the number. So he doesn't.
You know people are going to say it costs too much and you should change it.
Then you change it and you change it.
Then, but enough so that we're going to be pulling things out of the project.
I don't know. I mean, you're going to get resistance and you're going to get supporters. That's what happens at these kinds of meetings.
Exactly. So.
I'm fearful of making the informational evening about how they like the project more so than I thought it was going to be an informational meeting about what the project is included, what is included in the project, about the company that we're doing it, about the kind of quality that you're providing for the school. However, I think even from point one, most people's questions are going to be, well, how much is it going to cost me, and how much does it cost the town, and what's the tax impact? And I think if you don't have those numbers available, people then start to scour and say, well, maybe it shouldn't include the roof, maybe it shouldn't include the boiler, because they're scared about numbers. I think you have to have numbers available from the get-go. I think people get very nervous when you can't give them a cost associated with the project. And I think
what variables do you need to have that?
So we have a series of assumptions that we have, and the best way to do it is to use those assumptions, explain those assumptions, and then lay out the information for it.
And you would have them for this.
Yeah.
That's all I guess.
I think you should have that information for the next Board of Selectmen meeting, so that you guys can talk about what the finances are before you actually go to the public.
There may be some decisions that could be made to help so that the information is not as confusing or variable at the public session. In other words, you provide a little more guidance type of financing, that the term that's going to come.
can you provide something like you provided in
Like that,
January?
right,
This
yeah.
was fantastic. I
Right,
think
right,
everybody
that's
would
all
love
I'm talking about, yes, sir.
So I get the sense of the,
No,
go.
I was gonna make a motion,
Oh, go ahead.
because I personally don't think we should do anything to repeat this. I think this needs to move forward sooner rather than later. And public input is always important, and it's always important to have that dialogue. So I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen authorize the building committee to begin holding public information sessions appropriately noticed on the project as defined at the meeting tonight.
I'll second
And-
that.
Okay, second. Any discussion?
Yeah. So, sounds to me like those are meetings that should have happened a long time ago, frankly. But aside from that, I would suggest that either F and ESG, at least AKF, I know you're from the state, should also be at those meetings.
Oh,
Yeah,
it would be.
It's a given.
Well, he said building, so I just wanted to be sure.
Well, the building committee convenes the public information session,
Fine,
but they're
I'm
gonna.
just saying our owner's rep needs to be there as well. I still don't particularly see the utility of them at the state we're at, but it's just an informational meeting, that's fine. I think that should have happened before, and I think we need to see, real, I understand that you guys, as really the GC or design builder, you have to hire folks to do certain things, but it seems to me, people, I know I do want to see it, and I'm sure other people want to see that for $13 million and an increase in taxes, what's it really going to look like? And with all due respect, not some shady old pictures of what we see now, we should see renderings of the finished product and all that.
Illustrations,
Right.
made up from
And
the
at that time, I
casework,
think public
the
comment
walls,
is,
and ceiling work and paint. We'll
Right.
have all that available for the first meeting.
and I think you guys can do something like that now, even though you haven't gone the next step.
Just to clarify the process, these are two informational hearings to get public input. It will include Tony's financial information. It is a public town discussion. As we can see tonight, this is not a simple project. It's a big project. It's complicated. It's different. It's very expensive. It's a tremendous outlay of town funds, and people need to understand it. There will, of course, be a special town meeting before this ever happens to look at every detail where everything will be presented. But I think the more we can have town input and information early on, it will help us get to that point.
So Susan, does your motion include a charge that Tony will have some numbers available for those meetings?
If it would make you happy. Will it make you happy?
It will make me very
Okay.
excited.
So I have a question though, to follow just what Tony was asking. This Tony, of that Tony.
Oh. I have a headache
Your-
now.
And
your-
not this time?
That's Andy. The presentation would outline the lease option and the bonding option. It's front-loaded. If the town goes with a lease purchase type thing, that would be more front-loaded, or that decision's going to be made.
That decision has to be made at some point,
Yeah.
because it has an impact on 15 years versus 20 years, has impact
That's
on
why I'm
interest
asking.
rate. I mean, there's some rather significant, the lease has a buy-down provision, there's some differences here.
sophisticated.
Which is
It's not easily
what
put up
I'm
on.
asking. I think my preference would be for these boards to make that decision before your presentation.
Well, I think that those are decisions we have to make at some point, and that will be board decisions, and that's probably something we'll be presenting later. I would think the important thing for the public is to understand what the project is, what the cost is, and what the impact will be. We're not going to give impact to the penny. I'm sure Tony will
I
have
could do sort of
a
rough
range.
of, based on some conservative scenarios,
Like a worst, right, concern.
what it would be.
It's important to
That's
get this
helpful.
started, though. I really
I
think
think
we have
that's-
to get this process started.
Get
and
people
this is a
talking
way to
about
do
it
that.
and understand, because otherwise they'll hear it at the special town meeting, and it's an awful lot of
They'll say,
information to get
We
at
didn't know
once.
anything about it.
Right.
So
And people
let's-
should know.
Let's start.
Any other discussion on the motion? This is just for the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. I believe that concludes our business. Mr. Co-Chairman? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second? Thank you.